What's up, everybody? Welcome back inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. This is the practice report presented by Byers Auto. That's the 40-year vet, Tim May. You know him. Of course you know him. I'm Spencer Holbrook. Tim, let's talk about all of the players that we just met with directly in front of us here on the practice field on the practice report presented by Byers Auto inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. Let's do it.
I'm going to take a cue from you the other day when you asked me to summarize what the people said. I summarized what all three people said the other day, and I won't do that to you this time because I know you just want to hit sweet. My favorite line of the whole day, and I'm paraphrasing it a little bit, was Paris Johnson talking about Mayan Williams, just talking about what a shot in the arm it is when this guy's running the ball and running it hard, and he goes, and you look up and you see those little legs going. I mean, either the little legs or short legs going. It really, kind of encapsulate what we've been watching here the last several weeks is the rise of Mayan Williams. Although we knew about him, he did very well last year, etc. But Mayan Williams has become someone that a lot of people are talking about across college football right now.
Absolutely he is, and he's somebody that everyone needs to get to know because he's been the bell cow of this team so far this season. He has been everything that Ohio State wanted from him and more, and everything Ohio State needs in a starting tailback. He's violent, he's physical at the point of attack, he can break tackles. When the offensive line doesn't quite get everything done, Mayan can make a guy miss or run through a guy. Cade Stover said that today. You can really feel when Mayan Williams is running well on that offensive line because, Cade is an extension of that.
Yeah.
He's the story of the week, Tim, and he might be the story of the season, other than maybe Tommy Eichenberg and Steel Chambers, the way they're playing. Story for another 5 minutes here on this.
Yeah.
But he definitely is the story of the season so far for Ohio State, being able to move those little legs, like you said, and get them chopping as chop, and, whatever term we want to use for him. He's been a lightning rod, I'd like to say, for this offense because Trayvon Henderson going down. If Mayan Williams wasn't performing at this level, you could talk about a one-dimensional football team, which is exactly what these guys were last year, and they didn't want to happen again. But the fact that Mayan Williams took this offseason so seriously and got in the shape that he's in now to be able to withstand multiple weeks in a row of being the guy really shows you, how seriously he did take the offseason, and now he's really running with it, so to speak.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's, as I keep been saying this week, it's hard to imagine this team without him at this moment. With TreVeyon Henderson and the questions a little bit about his foot, hopefully he's going to get to play this week. Will be cleared. But Dallin Hayden, freshman, running as hard as he can. Really stands out. But Mayan Williams has stolen the spotlight, in my opinion.
But let's not overlook what this offensive line is doing right now. And I know you're not.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I'm not either. And I want to make sure we don't do that at all because Mayan Williams is running really well, making guys miss, made that safety miss on the 70-yard touchdown run, but he couldn't get through that first level or the second level for that matter without Luke Whippler and the two guards and the two tackles that are playing, and even Cade Stover and G. Scott, the two tight ends that are blocking really well. Mitch Rossi thrown into that mix. The way this line and this unit are moving people, I asked Cade, like I said, if you can feel the way Mayan's running, but you can also feel when you're blocking well or when you're not blocking well. Luke Whippler had a couple good lines about run blocking and about being able to get to the second level and being really clean in the way that they slide off of double teams and get to those linebackers. This offensive line under Justin Fry, it's not just the talent level that they're playing with. You can tell that these guys, and this, I want to be clear, this is not a knock on Greg Studrawa or last year's offensive line. You can tell this unit is very well coached, particularly in the run blocking. And the way that they are performing is a product of not only the running scheme and the talent that they have, but also the way that they're coached to do those things. It's really a sight to see right now because they're running the ball at a really high level.
Knock, knock.
Who's there, Tim?
Greg Studrawa. I think you're knocking. I think you're making a knock on the way I coached the offensive line the last couple of years. How'd you like that joke?
That was a great joke.
Ryan Day switched out offensive line coaches for a reason. You're seeing the payoff. I like Greg Studrawa a lot. I also like Justin Fry a lot, and I really like the way things are going with this offensive line, especially, as I've said countless times, on any platform I'm on, it looks like an offensive line just personnel-wise. And then on top of that, the way they're playing, like I was talking with Paris Johnson Jr. about just the athleticism you see on this offensive line, how they're taking advantage of it with these pulling actions. I mean, they've always pulled guys. They've always quick trapped. They've done those kind of things. But the way Donovan Jackson, for example, can get out on the edge, and for that matter, the way Paris Johnson Jr. can get out on the edge, the opposite edge, etc. Like I told Paris Johnson Jr., I was watching Donovan Jackson sometimes, it looks more like a lead fullback than it does a pulling guard.
Yeah.
And you can just go places with that. With that said, you heard me ask Ryan Day this week on whether this offense seems to have an answer for anything thrown against it. It can pick that lock. And of course, he immediately went into the fact that they're nowhere near where they need to be from an execution standpoint and everything else. But there is a sense that whatever you need from this offense, it is in that playbook or that play tablet that Ryan Day and his staff have, and you've seen it week in and week out the first 5 weeks of this season. I mean, last week they barely break 400 total yards. More than 250 of that was rushing. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about. This is a team with C.J. Stroud on it and this fleet of receivers, but they just lined up and pretty much ran the ball down Rutgers' throat. And there aren't a lot of offenses that can do one or the other, or they can do one play and do the other the next play. That's what stands out about this offense as it gets ready to play Michigan State this week.
Man, Tim, you read my mind. I think we're starting to really be on the same wavelength here, because I was getting ready to get to that.
Well, your mind, there's this big hole I'm looking through there. But go ahead.
Yeah, in one ear, out the other, of course. That's what my dad would
Did you like
say.
that knock-knock joke, though?
Oh, of course.
All right, go ahead.
We're having fun here on the practice report presented by Byers Auto as we move forward. The running game is obviously doing really well. Michigan State's pretty good against the run, actually. I'll give them credit for that. The defense doesn't deserve a ton of credit because it's not very good overall as a unit, but against the run, this Michigan State unit is pretty talented. So you have to wonder, is Michigan State going to be content with being good against the run and loading up the box to stop Mayan Williams? Or is that 129th ranked passing defense going to have to put extra bodies back there and try to not let C.J. Stroud beat them with his arm? Because he will. He will do that because we saw him do it last year. He's not going to be afraid to do it again. It's a great conundrum, Tim, for Michigan State, because if you try to stop the run with Mayan Williams, your pass defense is not good enough to man up against Ohio State. If you try to shore up your pass defense, you're sacrificing the run defense that you know is already good. And so I'm not really sure where the Spartans try to attack this Ohio State offense, which is why, we'll talk Friday game predictions, which is why I don't think this game is going to be particularly close, because I don't think Michigan State can handle everything that Paris Johnson can do in the pass blocking to negate what Jacoby Windman can do off the edge. I don't think
it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't think this Michigan State running defense will be able to, do everything it wants to and can do against the run when you've got the pass so good. So it's a like I said, a great conundrum for Michigan State, because Ohio State can beat you in so many different ways.
Knock knock.
Who's there, Tim?
Take one.
Take one.
Take whatever they give you. That's what this Ohio State offense can do. You're exactly right about the pass defense. I mean, I still remember last year's game like it happened 5 minutes ago. So does Mel Tucker, the Michigan State head coach. Bottom line is this Ohio State team is fully equipped to take whatever they give them on Saturday. And Ryan Day, you want to keep this running game going if you can, but you don't want to be stupid about things. And I think Ryan Day has really, really matured in a play calling sense of mixing and matching, getting after people, creating conundrums for the defense, meaning they think they're going to line up and stop the run, but boy, oh boy, if you block the 5 guys they send instead of 4, somebody's wide open in that secondary on Saturday. And that's what Mel Tucker's got to wrestle with. So like we talked about the other day, you're going to see defenses more and more playing it as safe as possible while at the same time trying to put pressure on C.J. Stroud. It's hard to do both of those. Mm-hmm. And I think you'll see another maybe clinic in that regard on Saturday.
Now let's flip over to the other side of the ball, Tim. The first thing I learned is that Cade Stover had to teach Steel Chambers and Tommy Eichenberg, not about defense, but had to teach him how to play euchre.
Yes.
Tommy Eichenberg, for some reason, picks up trump when he only has one trump card in his hand. That's a story for another time, but we're going to have to get to the bottom of that because, Tommy, that's not the move, man. But the other thing that we learned is that these two linebackers are playing ridiculously well. Tommy Eichenberg actually can talk. He doesn't just grunt like Jim Knowles made it sound like he does. And the leadership of this linebacker unit, I think, has taken a step forward this year. And it all starts with Tommy Eichenberg. You're going to have a story about him on LettermenRow.com this week. But the way that he can lead without saying a lot says a lot about who Tommy Eichenberg is.
Yeah, but you get all kinds of mixed stories about whether he does talk a lot or not. Because obviously with us, he doesn't say a whole lot.
No.
I like him because, I mean, just because I just think he is a character in his own way. Just like his roommate Steel Chambers is a character, just like Cade Stover, their roommate, is a buddy, is a character. They're all interesting fellas in their own right. But what I'm more interested in is, and I'm going to be writing about this, is along with the fact that the grunts, as Jim Knowles talked about him responding to some of his questions, points, etc., is just, you talk about a match made in heaven is Jim Knowles and Tommy Eichenberg and Jim Knowles' defense. Because, wow, he just triggers. I mean, he knows exactly what he's seeing 9 times out of 10 and triggers and goes to the right place at the right time, as the old saying goes, with his hair on fire, although he keeps a close cropped hair.
Yeah.
But my point is,
he does.
He's just a match made in heaven, Tommy Eichenberg and this Jim Knowles defense. And you don't have to really say much. I mean, his actions speak for themselves the first 5 games, really going back to the second half of the Rose Bowl especially. But Tommy Eichenberg's been a totally different player than he was exactly this time a year ago. I mean, he is so much fun to watch on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, he just flies around, and I think that's one of the things that you notice.
But he's not, as that old saying goes, he's not loitering flying. He's on a mission. Every play, he figures out what his mission is immediately and goes to it.
Yeah, he flies around in a sense of it's not reckless, but he's also playing with reckless abandon, as the cliche goes. He's not reckless in the way he tries to shoot gaps. He's very strategic in when to go, how to go, and why to go. And I think that's what makes him so good is he's playing fast, he's playing free, but at the same time, every time he starts to hit a gap or goes to make a play, he's got a plan. And that's a really rare combination, Tim, when you can get a guy who plays as loose and as free and as flowing as Tommy Eichenberg does, but when he goes, man, I mean, he's there.
Yeah.
And he's making the play.
Agreed.
And I'd like to know, maybe I'll look this up and get it to you for the story. His missed tackle rate has to be one of the lowest in the country.
Yeah.
The guy last year we saw would shoot gaps in that old defense, and really, one knock on Tommy that I had through the offseason was that he did miss some tackles. He would, a running back would shake loose on him, or, he would not be able to pick up a sack like he probably could have. No, this year I would like to know if he's missed any tackles, because if he has, I haven't seen a.
Look, I'm almost willing to put last year's memories of this defense, especially the video, out of my mind, because there were so many times last year, in my opinion, watching the games, where this defense was unsound. And by that I mean they weren't gap sound, meaning guys were told, instructed, tutored to line up wrong. I mean, not line up wrong, but the fronts didn't match the linebackers, didn't match the secondary, and it was kind of frustrating to watch. I know it was frustrating to watch for Ryan Day, especially those first 2 games before he made a few changes. But then as the year went on, you look like you're not very physical when you're sort of out of position. I mean, that old idea that the Big Ten had slow players, the Ohio State had slow players that came from that 2006 national championship game against Florida. Well, Ohio State defensively was pretty much just playing soft zone, not really matching up with anybody, just waiting for the offense to come to them. Well, when one guy's running and you're not, that guy always looks faster than you.
Yes.
This defense is playing aggressive, it's playing fast. Mel Tucker talked about that in his press conference this week. That's what really jumps out at you about this, is they're rarely out of position. Everybody seems to have a mission and knows his mission, and knows the guy next to him knows his mission on each particular play. Occasionally you're going to get gashed. That happens in all levels of football. But what stands out about this troop is they seem to have an idea of where they're going on every play, and that is so opposite of the way it looked a lot of times last year.
It's crazy what a real experienced defensive coordinator will do for a program, Tim, especially one as good as Jim Knowles. A lot of credit going to him, but a lot of credit going to these players too. I think that's one of the things.
Well, wait a minute. Let me interrupt you. Pardon me, whoever you are that gets mad at me interrupting. There were experienced defensive coaches on that staff last year.
Not coordinators.
No, but the point is, it was not well coordinated. Number one, and number two, I don't think the scheme was very, let's call it deep or whatever. Teams just took advantage of it. The beauty of this Jim Knowles defense is that he can show you the same look from one play to the next if the offense lines up the same way. But he can change one guy. He can change one safety's responsibility or one linebacker's responsibility or Jack Sawyer floating around, and it totally changes the way you have to adjust to it on the fly offensively. That's the beauty of this system.
The beauty of it for me, Tim, is the fact that the players are getting a lot of credit, but also everyone knows that Jim Knowles deserves some credit. And so that's why you hear, the color commentator a lot of times on TV say this Jim Knowles defense, Tommy Eichenberg in this defense, in Steel Chambers in the Jim Knowles system. It gives credit to both the coordinator who is designing it and the player. And I think that both deserve so much credit that it's nice to hear that when you do hear it.
Yeah.
Because, a guy like Jack Sawyer deserves credit for the way he can move around, but also Jim Knowles deserves credit for the way he can scheme Jack Sawyer free to get to the quarterback.
Yeah. Knock, knock.
Third time's the charm. Who's there, Tim?
I might have 5 more. Tim Perry.
Tim Perry who?
Tim Walton and Perry Eliano. They're doing a hell of a job when you consider what they've dealt with the first 5 games of having guys available and not available. I'm talking about in the safety realm and also in the cornerback realm. You think about the way this defense has played with the problems they've had at cornerback. Number one, Denzel Burke, having such an abbreviated preseason, we weren't aware of all of his problems, but clearly he's playing himself back into like playing shape, meaning awareness, whatever. But then you consider 2 games ago they started two first-time starters at the cornerback positions against Wisconsin. Last week, J.K. Johnson got another start opposite Denzel Burke. We don't know if Cam Brown is going to be available this week or not, but just what they've done both in the cornerback room and the safeties room is remarkable considering the guys they've had to plug and play.
Yeah.
And they deserve as much credit as anybody else. Obviously, Larry Johnson's the GOAT, so of defensive line coaches, so he doesn't need a lot of praise.
Knock, knock, Tim.
Who's there?
End of. The end of the practice report presented by Byers Auto, folks. That's all we've got from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. We'll be in East Lansing on Saturday at 4 o'clock for Ohio State, Michigan State. That's the 40-year vet, Tim May. Of course, I'm simply Spencer Holbrook. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hit the little bell down there. You can get a notification every time we go with one of these videos. And make sure you check out lettermenrow.com and the message board. It's $1 for an entire year. That's a heck of a deal, Tim.
Yes.
But again, for Tim, I'm Spencer. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in East Lansing on Saturday.